and welcome to Diecast Stratos. I'm Jason and I'm going to be customizing this Matchbox Lamborghini Countach to look more akin to the real car it recreates. It isn't just any Countach though. This model is based on the LP500 prototype concept car. We'll run through exactly why shortly. The model was in the Matchbox range from 1973 to 1981, mainly under the Streakers sub-banner. This meant it came equipped with some bold tampographic liveries. Here's one like mine in mint condition, and this is the LP500, distinctly different to the initial production LP400 Countach. The best I could do on the wheel front were these Porsche Gotti style, which do look remarkably similar. The Countach replaced the Mercedes 230 SL in 1973, an aging casting that had already seen it transition to the revitalised Superfast series in 1970. I worked on the regular wheels SL way back. Early issues of the Countach were painted yellow or orange with a simple number 3 sticker attached to the front. A wide array of variations exist on the Lambo, mostly thanks to the different transparency tints, interior colours, base colours and tampo designs. Most early models featured red tinted windows, but orange tints can also be found with the number 3 sticker. Bases were generally black and interiors chrome plated, matching mine. It was on the Streakers castings where colour variations really began. After their introduction in 1975, featuring number 8 lime and black tampos printed across the top, 3 different window colours could be found: red, yellow and green tints. Add to this the occasional brown instead of black base plate and grey instead of chrome plated interior, it meant that there are at least 21 variations of the number 27 model. It would be replaced in 1981 by the lackluster swing-wing F-14 Tomcat style fighter jet, a model that was actually retooled in 2020 for the release of Top Gun Maverick. So how can you tell that this casting is based on the concept and not the production car? Well, the nose of the casting tapers very sharply down to a thin grille, with its body lacking the bumpers and aerodynamic spoilers of the production car. The model's lack of mirrors isn't a casting omission either. It was built without them to retain the lines of Marcello Gandini's design. Gandini incorporated trapezoidal shapes throughout his design. The engine was cooled by louvered vents immediately behind the side window, though road testing quickly demonstrated that they weren't up to the task of controlling temperatures. Pre-production testing also saw modifications that would later appear on the production car, including NACA ducts spanning the doors and rear wings on each side, and protruding air intakes which replaced those louvered vents. The slope of the nose was shallower to reduce excessive front-end downforce that destabilised the car during braking. Production models also had additional small windows added beside the side windows which aided visibility, while the side windows themselves were split into 2 pieces with a retractable lower half. Gandini's bold styling flowed into the interior, where he envisaged a fully digital display, though this wasn't realised in time for the unveiling of the LP500. Instead, it received conventional dials. However, it did receive aircraft-inspired warning lights centrally situated on the steering column, and included an onboard diagnostic system that displayed the status of the car's systems over a schematic diagram of the car. You can see the deep block-segmented bucket seats on the model's interior piece. It also had a single spoke steering wheel. The low seating position, prominent transmission tunnel and wide door sills all contribute to the feeling of being inside a race car cockpit. Another rearward visibility aid came in the form of a periscope that was integrated into the roof of the cabin, in place of a conventional rear view mirror. This did reach the production LP400, but on subsequent Countach models, this was replaced by a regular mirror. The goal of the Countach was to be the successor to the Miura, which by 1970 was showing its age, despite being only 4 years old. It would borrow the layout of the Miura, rear mid-engined and rear-wheel drive, while Lamborghini aimed to improve on its lift-off oversteer and high-speed stability issues. limited access for maintenance, uneven weight distribution, and problems with cooling. Marcello Gandini had designed the Miura and was tasked with penning its replacement. Since its introduction, he had been experimenting with more angular concept cars, namely the 1968 Alfa Romeo Carabo and the 1970 Lancia Stratos Zero. These wedges also carried mid-engined layouts with a low front end, and both offered unconventional methods of entry into the cabin. While the Stratos Zero had a hinged windshield, the Carabo had scissor doors. Gandini again incorporated the latter into the design of the as yet unnamed prototype. Horizontal hinges would be assisted by gas struts to ensure a smooth opening and closing motion, all the while supporting the weight of the doors. He chose these not only as a statement piece, but also because they offer better accessibility in narrow spaces. The lack of rearward visibility meant that most Countach drivers would opt to sit on the sill with the door open while reversing their cars. The design did make it difficult to exit the car in the event of a rollover accident. Lamborghini engineers did come up with ideas for easily removable kick-out windscreens or explosive bolts to remove the doors in the event of an accident, though neither were incorporated into the production car. I've talked about this before, but the name for the car was thought up during 1970 or 71, while the project had been known as LP112. In the Piedmont region of Italy bordering France and Switzerland, Piedmontese is the local dialect. Gandini explains that a profiler who made locks who spoke exclusively Piedmontese would often exclaim in astonishment, "Countach." It literally means plague. Gandini approached test driver Bob Wallace, asking how the phrase sounded to the Anglo-Saxon ear. It worked, and the name, usually reserved for famous bulls and bullfighting, stuck. The LP, which features in many Lamborghini designations, stands for Longitudinale Posteriore, meaning longitudinal rear, in reference to the engine orientation. The following digits represent the engine displacement, i.e. 400 for the 3.9 litre engines and 500 for 4.8 or 5 litre engines. S was later added for sport performance variants. The Countach made its public debut at the 1971 Geneva Motor Show. It would be 3 years before it had been sufficiently refined to go on sale as the Countach LP500. The longitudinally mounted Bizzarini V12 was a first for a road car. In its early form, this had a 3.9 litre displacement producing 370 horsepower, less than the Miura SV due to the Weber carbs instead of downdraft carburetors used on the Miura. Lamborghini had planned to use an increased displacement 5 litre engine bored out from a 3.9 litre unit, but this self-destructed during testing. The original prototype LP500 was actually destroyed in March 1974 in a crash test at the Myra facility in England. It was being tested to gain European type approval, despite the car having a partial space frame steel chassis, which was heavier than the production car's full tubular space frame. A second prototype was shown to the public at the 1973 Geneva and Paris motor shows, painted red and green respectively. The body of this car was much closer to the look of the production LP400. A third yellow prototype was later displayed at Geneva the following year. Here, 50 orders were placed for the production car, and by the end of the model's run in 1978, 157 had been built. It was replaced by the LP400S, actually down on power compared to the preceding car, but it did offer the option of the distinctive rear wing for the first time. This provided better high-speed stability, but at the detriment of overall top speed, which was reduced by 10 miles per hour as a result. 237 S models were built until 1982, when a 5 litre V12 was finally introduced on the LP500S. I've customised a Matchbox model of this previously in a very period white with white wheels and white interior. 321 were built before the engine was again evolved in 1985. The 5 litre unit was bored and stroked to 5.2 litres and was given 4 valves per cylinder, gifting the LP5000 QV its name, Quattro Valvole. Italian for 4 valves. For better cooling, the carbs were moved to the top of the engine from the sides, but this had the unwanted side effect of reducing rearward visibility even more with a higher engine cover. 610 of the QVs were built, with a further 66 receiving fuel injection. The final version of the Countach to be produced was the 25th anniversary edition, released in 1988 and restyled by Horacio Pagani. Performance was much the same as the QV, and it sold just as well, shifting 657 units before production ended in 1990, with the arrival of its replacement, the Diablo. The Countach is such an iconic car, and there really isn't time in the short span of this video to give its history the justice it deserves. There were several interesting or unique Countaches built over the years, like the Walter Wolf Countach. This was modified by former Lamborghini chief engineer Giampaolo Dallara, who fitted the LP500 with a 5-litre engine from the prototype, giving the car a theoretical top speed of 196 to 201 miles per hour. This car would be a key stepping stone in the future of Countach development. Elsewhere, there were the Turbo S twin turbocharged models commissioned in the early 80s, or the Group C race car Countach QVX. Then there's the F1 safety cars, the Countach Evoluzione testbed prototype used to develop the car's successor, or the L150 prototype intended to represent a new Countach production model. All of these have fascinating stories surrounding them and are definitely worth delving into if it tickles your fancy. So this was how my Matchbox Streaker's Lamborghini Countach looked before I began transforming it into a better reflection of the prototype car it recreates. If you didn't know, it would be easy to assume this is a model based on the production car, perhaps a slightly simplistic replica of the LP400 missing its distinctive knacker ducts. But look a little closer and you notice there are further differences to the production car. And so here is how my prototype replica looks, in a vibrant shade of yellow. It's actually my first time using my airbrush yellow paints, and I'd been warned about how much of a pain yellow can be. To be honest, I think it looks great and it didn't cause me any issues at all. I needed to sort out the window piece, which was bright yellow itself, so a wrapping of headlight tint tones it down and actually holds together some of the broken parts of it. The Porsche Gotti wheels from Creative 164 are great matches to the car's real wheels, plus I've gifted the model a few hints of detail here and there to finish it off, not to mention the engine which I've exposed in the outro. So what do you make of this Matchbox makeover? Let me know down in the comments and tell me which version of Countach is your favourite. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.